So the Bundys have been acquitted of all charges in their takeover of an Oregon wildlife refuge. And for those who aren't aware of what happened, last winter a family, along with several of their supporters, ended up taking over a government wildlife refuge at gunpoint and refused to leave. And basically told anyone who tried to get them out that there would be violence if they did so. And this went on for weeks and weeks, and there was almost no police action taken against them. Many of them were able to give interviews to the press without getting apprehended after they exited the building. So the worst that ended up happening was that a group of them, while in transit away from the refuge, were intercepted by police officers, and that did end in a gun battle, and one of them was shot and killed. So that was about the worst that happened. And obviously, I'm not advocating for killing, but the issues that this is bringing up is because these guys did this, and this is in many ways an act of terrorism because they're using violence and to take over a government building, and they're not attacking a government or a military target, and they're using it for political means. So in many ways, it is terrorism, and they've just been acquitted. So this brings up the issue of race in the criminal justice system. So let's do a little thought experiment here. This is a group of Muslim Americans, and they do the same thing. They take over a wildlife refuge at gunpoint, and they don't shoot anybody in the process of doing so, but they tell people that they're not leaving unless, let's say, they're allowed to build a mosque in a place where they believe that due to prejudice, they're not being permitted to build a mosque. So just that. It's same thing, similar. They're trying to protest far-reaching government influence. Does anybody really doubt that that would end in violence, that the police wouldn't immediately take action against that group of people, that it would go on for weeks and weeks, that the individuals in this case, the Muslim Americans, would be able to give interviews to the press with absolutely no attempt to apprehend them, and would be given this huge avenue in which to voice their opinions? I don't think anybody really believes that that would be the case. So that would be a racial prejudice. And also, let's say it's a group of black gentlemen. They're protesting police brutality, and they say that they are taking over the building to protest that the police attacking them without reason, their unwillingness to change their training, etc. Any number of these reasons related to police brutality. Again, a lot of black people, very much so, it's becoming more and more of an issue of whether or not they can even just go about their day without doing anything wrong, without facing some sort of repercussions from the police. We had the whole issue in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with Terrence Crutcher, who literally his car broke down in the middle of the highway, and police stopped. They stopped not to help him, but they ended up, making him put his hands on his car at gunpoint, and he did so. He had his hands on his car, and he was shot anyways and killed. So that's certainly a valid complaint, and that's certainly something that's worth protesting. Again, I'm not against protesting in any way. It's just the issue is when it becomes about you taking over a government building at gunpoint, that's kind of terrorism in a way. So, because you're attacking a non-military target using force to advance a political goal. So that's where these accusations of racism in the political and the criminal justice system come up, and I think that they are very warranted. But in this specific instance, I actually believe that this is more emblematic of the disparity between classes and how they're affected by the criminal justice system. Because the Bundy family are a very wealthy family. And so I think that, as you can see, they can hire the best defense. They have the friends in higher up positions in order to make it more and more likely that they're going to get off. So it's the same reason why the Wells Fargo CEO was able to basically have fraud going on under his watch, and he only had to resign only because Elizabeth Warren grilled him on a national platform and forced the company's hand. Because when you're rich and powerful, you're able to get that defense. You're able to have those that influence, those, I'm trying to think of the word for it, connections that make it very hard to be able to actually prosecute you. So I think that that's what this is really more emblematic of instead of racism, but I do believe this is also a race issue, because I don't believe, at the very least, that if these were these were minorities, and specifically historically persecuted minorities, that this would have went over the same way. And I don't think that they would have been given the same chances and the same platforms that the Bundys were given this entire time. So, and Jill Stein has tweeted about this, talking about how it's pretty sad that they just got away with it. And they're probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again, because this is basically go ahead. There's nothing wrong with using weapons to take over government buildings for the sake of a political agenda. And this is also during the same time when just recently 141 protesters were arrested at the North Dakota pipeline protests, and for many of them for trespassing, and that these people have had dogs sent on them and have actual police brutality going in and forcibly removing them from property, when all these people really want is clean drinking water. So they're not rich and powerful, and so they're basically, with almost impunity, they can be forced to end whatever protest they want, even though their protest is actually legitimately peaceful. So that's the reason I think it's mostly a rich thing, or it's a wealth thing, because as we saw, these people are not the Bundys, so they don't have those connections. So we'll end up seeing what happens with these protesters at the North Dakota pipeline, but I don't think it's going to end quite as well for them as it did for the Bundys. Heyo, thanks for watching Political Leanings with me, Grant Starson. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right there, and hit that like button right there. That goes a long way towards helping me out, and I want to get this show bigger and better, and I emphasize better. I want to keep improving this show, and any support I get ends up helping me do so. So, to that end, also, if you have anything to say, make sure to leave a comment in the YouTube comment section below and give me any feedback, because sometimes I might mess up, and I want my audience to be able to tell me that. Feedback, constructive criticism, or positive is good for me, and I like to have conversations with you. If you like to see up more content from me, I actually have another channel called Starson vs. the Arts. A link for that will be in the description below, and in that channel I do reviews, editorials, and I post my own original content about the arts and all forms of it, from video games to movies to anime to theater to books, anything. So if you want to see that, the link in the description below. And if you want to contact me on Twitter, same thing in the description below. Have a nice day.